simply want to say this to Rocky. Listen and listen very carefully, Rocky. It's as simple as this. Tasmanians have had a bloody gutful over your stadium, and you can stick it up your bum. That's what's going on.
There you go. That was Jackie Lambie, the senator from Tasmania. Apparently she hasn't heard of homelessness and education issues for the last 2 years down in Tasmania. Why is it suddenly this has come up? What, you don't reckon that there's a pot of money in other portfolios, education, all the rest of it, that this is an infrastructure and AFL play that has brought $300 million to Tasmania? Let's have a look at what Jeremy Rockcliffe... well, this is the protest last week.
This is last Saturday.
Saturday. So people are now saying they don't want to have the stadium, which was declared on this very show 2 years ago, that to get in they needed to have a stadium with a roof on it. Subsequently, you've seen the different tweets there from Jeremy Rockcliffe, the Tasmanian Premier. This means $130 million for York Park, so they get it. Thousands of jobs will be gone. Housing for our health workers are gone. $360 million for local football gone. Does anybody down there actually look at the economic impact of what will happen? That the unemployed will get jobs down there, building the stadium, that they'll learn how to do things in the gig economy, that you have a look at the economic impact of Victorian major events that has turned Victoria from being a rust bucket place in the 90s into the world's most livable city within 20 years. Have a look what's just happened over in Western Australia. 300,000 people, a record, have tried to get on to get tickets to Coldplay, who would have flown over Perth for the last 100 years, because they've got a stadium that you can get good crowds into, that's got great acoustics, that has been built since Wi-Fi and 5G. Let's roll Tim Lane, what he had to say tonight on 3AW, who's been one of the great proponents for Tasmanian football.
Does the AFL really care about there being a Tasmanian team or not? And if it does, is it prepared to bend, to give Tasmania some wriggle room to actually get to a point where whether a stadium like this needs to be built and built on that spot is something given due consideration, rather than basically having it dropped on the state and told you either accept this or you just forget the idea of having a team. I mean, a Tasmanian team should have been a medium for great unity in Tasmania like it's never known, but in fact it has become a matter of dramatic division.
Yeah, the only part of that makes sense to me is the part where he said unity that they've never known, because they've never known unity when it comes to football or anything else down in Tasmania.
It's an extraordinary position to have.
Can I just say one thing? I find it highly, highly insulting to the AFL, what Tim said there, that they dropped it and they didn't do anything. Do they really care about Tasmania? Gil McLachlan and the AFL executive and the clubs have used every bit of political experience they could get and everything for $300 million out of Anthony Albanese. They've worked the Tasmanian government. None of the clubs wanted this originally,
no, they didn't.
And still they went, no, we'll do it. It's going to blow the competition up, right? And everyone's prepared to do it, but not if these people don't want it. Now, I'm proposing this tonight for a conversation. Why don't we just have a moratorium until the Wednesday of grand final week? Let Tassie go and have a think about this, and then come back and say, yeah, we'll take it. Because if not, there is a plan B. We can keep North and Hawthorn playing there, play in Launceston and Hobart, no problem. I'd say put a lot more money into junior development in Tasmania and have a VFL team if you want to have it. But if you're not going to have the new stadium, if you're not going to come to the AFL level, you don't get an AFL team. It's been made clear, but I tell you what no one wants in this game. We don't want people tying themselves to bulldozers down there for the next 5 years. It's going to be hard enough getting players to go down there without them getting rocks thrown at them.
Well, it's even simpler than that, Ed. The 4-month timeline you just outlined, it's even simpler. Tomorrow, answer this question. Do you want a team? And if the answer to that is yes, the stadium gets built. Now, just take a listen to Gil McLachlan. He is saying that there is no team unless the stadium's built.
I just think that this is an incredibly important moment for Tasmania and Tasmanian football. It is now an arrangement that is, if you want an AFL team, it comes with a stadium. Now, the people have their views about that, but it's now funded.
But now, the AFL often has wiggle room on everything it does. There is no wiggle room on that. There is 0 percentage point wiggle room on that.
That was the
no
deal.
Stadium means no team.
It's been signed
It's the only reason it got off.
Who are you asking tomorrow, though? Like, who are you asking that? you said tomorrow. You asked who?
Oh no, Ed was proposing the 4-month timeline for Tasmanians to get their heads around it. It's done. It's done. And so if they don't want the stadium, there's no point waiting 4 months to arrive at that decision. That's the scenario.
Damo, if the $300 million, we'll take it and build the Southern Stand at the MCG if that's still going around for infrastructure.
Why did it
football.
take for a team to be announced and then this happened?
That's what I can't understand either.
That's what I'm saying. They've had 3 years. I mean, where was Jackie Lambie for the last 3 years?
And
it's not like it. And Tim Lane saying it was dumped on them. We broke it here 2.5 years ago on this very show.
It's emotional for people involved in it, but for Tim Lane, I've only hearing that as it goes to air tonight. For him to have that form of opposition to it after the fight that he and other ex-Tasmanians have had to get the team over the line, it's staggering.
Am I being cynical, politically cynical, to think why would Anthony Albanese pork barrel the only Liberal government left in Australia, the government, the state government of Tasmania?
Well, it's a minority government now.
Minority
on the back
government,
of this
but
issue.
if you're going to give money for housing and education, you'd be holding that back until election, wouldn't you? You've already just given $300 for the football team that you've been asked for.
And would it help if the AFL set a date too? Like, we haven't got a date. Is that also...
Well, if I was the AFL, I'd be coming back now saying, here's my date. You don't get a game until you actually bounce it on the new stadium. Because if they're going to start kicking this down the road, it's going to be completely counter to everything that's been negotiated for 2 years. You can't welch on the deal. We want Tassie to be great. Don't think I'm against Tassie.
No.
Right? I'm looking there saying you are about to jump off a cliff. Do it properly or don't do it at all. Or we'll mitigate it and we'll come up with a different way so that everyone is happy. Put the money in. Don't take the $300 million. Fix up Launceston and Devonport because they're VFL-style grounds. They're good grounds. They're great. But as I said, in the world that we inhabit internationally, if you haven't got a ground that is commensurate with 5G and going forward, you might as well be playing in the backyard.
Could this push it back even years?
I reckon it has already. I mean, I don't know what they've done in the 2 weeks since the announcement, and they didn't have time to waste as it was.
We said 2 years ago they had to get $20 million a year into game development. Who's the coach? Who's the GM? What's going on? Nothing's happened.
There's still a belief that they'll get the team and they'll start out of Bellarive or York Park. That's what that comes across as.
No, well,
the AFL won't let them.
No, but why would there be such a strong opposition? And Ned, I've spoken to you about this. I think they went too small in their proposal. This should have been the jewel in the crown for the whole infrastructure build of Tasmania, link north to south. You know, put the university down there. While you got the federal government at the table, everyone should have been coming along. What else can we bolt on?
But not only that, though, Jim, instead of saying stick it up your backside and all that sort of stuff, they should be saying, right, OK, how can we design this to have a hospital in this? How can we have a university campus in here? How can we get some of the money out of the Olympic Games to put into the sailing team where it finishes for the Sydney to Hobart and turn Hobart into the sailing capital of Australia? Do these things, grow, go, look forward, look up. We love the Tasmanian people, but stop looking back because the AFL isn't going back, and if it gets to this, they'll put a line through it. It's as simple as that. Alicia Muelling's got more news. Alicia, we're getting fired up in here because we love football, we love Tasmanian football, but we've got some people standing on the mark at the moment and it's getting frustrating for a lot of people. We look forward to the debates that'll come, but geez, I tell you what, wow.
All right, Eddie, just calm your farm. But look,
not calm my farm. There's a couple of $1 billion at stake here, Alicia, and a lot of broken hearts for people. So it's this is sheep stations. We're going to actually grind the AFL competition to a halt, then pulling people out, sending them to Tasmania, getting rid of teams who've got any chance of coming up the ladder for the next 5 years. This is big time. And to have people just willy-nilly changing their mind because they don't like the smorgasbord that's put in front of them, we haven't piled their plate up enough. So, no, I'm not calming the farm. I haven't even wound up yet.